Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid, a channel I've created to not only advocate and bring awareness to the day-to-day realities trauma creates, but also to delve into the mechanics and the lived experience and to develop ways to actually heal. Now, this is the next video in the adoption series. And this one's going to be a little button pushy, as most of the videos, especially when you're looking at what adoption creates. But it's a little harder and a little more personal. So please keep that in mind as you watch this. And as I always say, if you're an adoptee and you're perfectly happy with your adoption, then my advice is to don't watch. Because if you don't need to ask the question, then don't ask. One of the things that is so common amongst adoptees, and I see it play out in two real variations, is this waiting for permission. Waiting for permission to feel, waiting for permission to engage, waiting for permission to enact, waiting for permission to participate, waiting for permission to be part of, waiting for permission to express. One of the components of the fog, when you come from a survival state, is you are attaching through a survival state in your adoptive family. Your actions directly affect your survival as an infant or a very, very young child. You look for cues. Everything we run on is on the cues of those, the social cues of those around us, of what's allowed, what will affect our safety by upsetting or annoying or angering those that are there raising us. We look for cues to try to develop ways of connecting and getting more immersed within the adoptive family. That creates such a neurologically embedded conditioning that, and because it's so fundamentally developmental and so early on in life, we are geared and wired to wait for permission. We subconsciously look and constantly pay attention to the social cues of where we're allowed to be, what we're allowed to do, what we're allowed to say, what we're allowed to engage in. And that plays out in fundamentally two groups. There are adoptees that will walk into a room and dominate everything. That is one of the ways of doing this. If I can take charge, then I'm in control, then I have permission. And there are those that will just sit back and wait for somebody to engage them, wait for somebody to give them permission to participate, which in a public forum, is the norm for a lot of people coming from different backgrounds. But if you look at it in a relationship sense, you're always waiting for your partner to give you permission, or you're always dominating your partner, getting them to do what you need to do. It doesn't bode well for the healthiness of relationships. If you look at it in a work environment, it opens the doors to predation, it opens the doors to bullying, it opens the doors to the violating of so many fundamental aspects that we consider normal, because that hesitation gets preyed upon, especially in work environments, in school environments, and social environments. And it creates this reinforcement that you're different, that you're wrong, that you're less than. And it reinforces the fog in such a physiological manner that it severely affects all forms of connection and interaction. And that's this waiting for permission. And it can get to a point where you need permission to feel. You need permission to participate things within your own body. I was reminded of this only a few days ago, hence making this video. It brought it, further into, to being brought up. I was going to do it a few videos away. Like, I recently went through a bunch of dental work. And I was so geared and instinctively, was I allowed to use my own teeth? Was I allowed to go, well, the work done needs to be it needs to be a bit of an adjustment because the bite down is not even. I had all these layers of waiting for permission to be able to use my own teeth and to say, yes, the pain is still there. Yes, the infection is still there. I had this overwhelming subconscious sense coming to the forefront of needing permission to ask for help in the first place. And it reminded me of something that I've been formulating in my mind in my research into the structures of the fog and what creates it and how it works. Is that it's such a fundamental developmental state that opens up so many people to so much harm and so much humiliation and shame, and that reinforcement of being somebody else's kid raised in somebody else's family, that I needed to make this video to bring it to the fore. Now, how we work with this is far more complicated than people would think. The way a lot of adoptees and a lot of children that have grown up and adults that have gone through this kind of survival state do is by dominating. That is how I will address this and alter my neurophysiology. But in reality, they're still waiting for permission. They're just taking the lead role in removing the need to ask it. And it has its own consequences. And when you spend a lot of time, like I've done over the years, just sitting back in different forums and you look at all the interactions amongst adoptees, you can see these dynamics play out all the time. And it is something that needs to be understood to be worked with. In all honesty, to work with this, where I have seen the doorway neurologically or neurophysiologically open to working with this component of the fog is there needs to be a biological face-to-face meeting with a close family member, i.e. mother, father, direct brothers and sisters, or direct grandparents, that really close genetic. Even if it's just for 10 minutes, it's the recognizing fundamentally of you look like me, your mannerisms are the same, I'm connected. To wake up the components within your neurophysiology to allow this to change. Because one of the difficulties of working with the fog is because of it being a survival script and a survival state in the initial attachment during placement, everything is constructed, not grown. And we need to link it to a growing base for it to take hold, to actually become natural. A lot of therapy bases can teach you to alter your behavior, but you have to be consciously aware to enact that altered behavior all the time. It won't become natural because it has nothing to attach to, because it's attaching to a survival state. And that is what so much within mental health practitioners don't understand when you're dealing with adoptees. Is there is no structural neurophysiological base to put those therapies to. You've got to work in such a way to create, the only way they're going to work is that the adoptee has to experience a physical environment long enough for their neurophysiology to change. You can't fill a head full of instructions and expect it to change. It's just going to feed straight into reinforcing the fog or trying to reconstruct the aspects of the fog that are collapsing. It won't work long term. So we need, as I said, we need to have that connection to biological family to work with this. And this is a hugely challenging aspect because by design adoption is there to separate you, let alone the tracing aspects and all the difficulties associated. And then you have the layer of most adoptees, if they raise within their adoptive family, they're looking for biological family, their adoptive family kicks them out. There's so many, and I'll get into all this stuff in future videos, but there are so many layers involved in trying to get the most simplest necessity to be able to build a base to heal that it makes it very, very difficult. So what I could offer now in this video is awareness is important. And just being aware can help you slowly enact change through just the validation that, yes, I have this and this is what created it. As I said, in the last week with all this dental work, I acknowledged when, oh crap, I still have this. It is still so much part of my responses, needing permission to use my own goddamn teeth in my own goddamn mouth. It's such a poignant thing, and it's so much at the core of what is created through removal and placement that we need to be aware to validate on the path to healing. To go, yeah, I have this because, and it's not my fault. This is not a shame thing. This was created by something outside of my control. Something I made no choice or decision to create. And to work with that rather than having it buried, suppressed, repressed, or just feeding the shame. I will do more videos on this. It is, when you're dealing with the fog, there is so much depth and so much complexity to this mess. It's an impossible amount of chaos, as I've said in numerous videos. But I want to start to pull it into a level of understanding where the reality can be grasped. So as always, please be mindful. Please be respectful. I always like your guys' comments and questions. And I'll see you next time.